Welcome to the webinar. My name is Joseph Rodrigues, and today we're going to be talking about how you can increase your ability to focus on the task at hand. So whatever it is you're working on, whether it is reading or studying, how to improve that focus by applying the concept known as minimalism. And in this webinar, I'm going to be sharing with you my own personal examples of how I use this concept to improve my ability to focus on the task and get more stuff done. So what is focus? If you look at the definition on the screen, this is the context where we're coming from today. Concentrating on one aspect of the environment while ignoring other aspects. So what this means is that when you are focused, you are concentrating. Your attention is on the thing you are doing, and you are not paying any attention to anything else that's within your environment. So for example, in the context of reading, when you're reading a book, you're focused on the material and you're not thinking about what you ate for lunch or the conversation you had with a friend or things you got to do. That ability to stay focused, and I think this is one ability that we can all work on. And there's no limit, there is no end to working on focus. So what I mean by that is I've never met anyone that has 100% focus. Never. And maybe a person like that exists, but I've never met them. I've met individuals who have high levels of focus, and usually the individuals that I meet that have high levels of focus tend to get more stuff done. Tend to get more stuff done efficiently on top of that. So this is our definition, and this is what we want to achieve. We want to be able to consciously, when we make the effort to focus on a task, have less distractions, have less things taking that attention away. So what's minimalism? So I said that I'm going to be showing you how to apply minimalism to increase your focus, but what is it? Minimalism essentially means clearing the clutter out of your life. Just clearing the clutter out of your life. So what is clutter? Well, there's three types of clutter primarily that we're interested in when it comes to improving focus. Number one is physical clutter. So we're talking about a messy desk here. When you have a lot of things on your desk and you sit down to read a book and stuff's just piled up all over the place, do you know what really happens inside of your head when you're trying to focus on the task of reading? Well, your mind wanders and it starts to attach to the fact that your desk is messy. And even if it only happens at a subtle level, what's happening is that mental resources are being used up. And because there's a physical mess, you can't stay focused. Mental. Let's use the example of reading the book again. When you're reading a book and you're thinking about things that you have to do, or if you have a lot of things that you have to do and the objective is to get it all done today, but while you're studying, reading this book and studying, you're thinking about those things, well, you're not focused on reading the book, so you're probably not going to get the most out of it. And that's mental clutter. The third type of clutter is emotional clutter. So emotional clutter is one of my favorite ones because it's usually the hardest one to work with. So let's say you went out with a friend for lunch earlier before you were studying, and this same friend, every time you meet with them, they seem to emotionally drain you based on a conversation that you have, and you feel really tired after talking to this friend. So when you sit down and you study, you feel tired and you can't focus because you're emotionally drained. And that's a form of clutter also, having emotional clutter, things that are taking up your resources that you could be using for the task of reading. So here's the theory. Physical, mental, and emotional clutter uses up mental resources inefficiently. When you free up these resources, you will possess a greater ability to focus on the task at hand. So this is the theory, and based on my own results, this seems to be true. So here's what I did. When I took this theory into consideration, so these were my actions. These were my 3 things that I did. Number 1, the physical. I cleared out the clutter, got rid of stuff I don't need, cleaned up my desk. Anything that I didn't need that didn't fit my objectives or that was taking up physical resources or stuff that I just didn't need, I got rid of. And by the way, as I mention these 3 points here and I talk about it, I want you to think of this as levels. So there's many levels to clearing out physical clutter. You can start with just cleaning out your desk, and then you can move on to cleaning out your office, but you've got to start somewhere. The second thing I did was mental. I cleared out the mental clutter by achieving closure on tasks. So there was a certain amount of tasks that I had to get done, and I made a decision. Do I need to complete these tasks? Can I let go of these tasks? Can I just say I won't do them? But the point is that I got closure on things that were left outstanding. So little things like, for example, my personal example was getting a health card. I've been putting that off for such a long time, and the reason why I put it off was because it wasn't anything that was important to me, that was immediately pressing. But it was always there, it was always on my task list, and every time I looked at my task list, that task would show up, and it would just take a little bit of mental resource and it would stress me out a little bit looking at the task list. So I finally made the decision to just get that done and over with. So things like that, mental resources, freeing it up by just getting stuff done or just letting go of stuff that you don't want to do anymore. The third element is emotional. So usually relationships, friendships that seem to be very draining, I started cutting that out. So once I cleared the clutter, the physical, the emotional, the mental clutter, what kind of results did I get? So as a result, I increased my ability to focus. I reduced my physical distractions, I reduced my mental distractions, and I reduced my emotional distractions, freeing up the resources so that when I focused on a task, I was able to get it done a lot more efficiently and I would be more engaged in doing it. Now, if you want to do the same, you can apply my minimalism for focus in 3 steps. If you follow these 3 steps, you can increase your ability to focus by using minimalism. Step number 1, and we're going to go into these in detail, is to set your objectives. Step number 2 is to clear the clutter. And step number 3, work and refine. Let's go into these. Step number 1, set your objectives. One thing that you need to be very clear on is in these areas, these 6 areas that you see on the screen right now, what are your priorities? What's your work priorities? What are your learning priorities? Your physical, your social, your family, and your spiritual priorities. Once you set your priorities or your objectives, you can move on to step number 2, which is clearing the clutter. And based on your objectives, here's where you make the physical changes, the mental changes, the emotional changes. So what physical clutter do you have? Obviously, the messy desk is probably the first one that comes to mind if you have one. What is the mental clutter that you have, and what is the emotional clutter? You don't have to make a drastic step. Start with just something small, like cleaning your desk. Or for the mental aspect, say you've been meaning to do something for so long and you've just been putting it off, just get it done, just get it over with. Same goes with the emotional aspect. Clear the clutter out of these 3 aspects based on your objectives. And again, the theory, just to bring this up and to bring back the emphasis on what we're trying to do, is that physical, mental, and emotional clutter uses up mental resources that can be used to focus on the task at hand. So once we have set our objectives in step number 1, and in step number 2 we've started clearing the clutter, we can move on to step number 3, work and refine. So here's when you do your tasks. So you'll notice as you do your task now, you'll start to be more focused. You'll have less things to think about. You'll have less things taking up your mental resources. But one of the things you also want to do is evaluate your ability. You're still going to find that there's going to be areas that you can improve on. There's going to be some clutter that's going to be more apparent because it was kind of buried under the big clutter that you got rid of. And you're going to want to get rid of that. So run it through an evaluation process. And then after you've done that, repeat step number 1. Because this is an ongoing process, and as I mentioned earlier, increasing your focus, there is no end. Just like clearing the clutter, there is no end. No matter how much clutter I get rid of in the physical, the emotional, and the mental areas, no matter how much I think I've gotten rid of everything, more becomes apparent, and I've got to keep repeating this process. Well, when you start to improve your ability to focus, and it's based on applying this concept, it's very motivating, and you want to do it more and more. So thank you for taking the time to watch this webinar on applying minimalism for focus. I hope you were able to get some information out of it that you've never heard before, and you've gained some insights which you can take and apply. If you have any questions about what we've talked about today, you can email me at joe@irisreading.com. Thank you for watching.